I have people coming to me for golf lessons all the time, and their goal is to become a Skratch player. And frankly, I love that goal. Why not set your goals on being a really, really good player? But most of the time, that person is really unaware of what it actually takes to become a Skratch player. They kind of have the idea in their mind that if a golf pro can just give them that one little tip that's going to push them over the edge, that they'll all of a sudden just become a Skratch player. Well, let me tell you, it doesn't work like that. So what I'm going to do in this video today is I'm going to give you the most important things that I think a golfer must be able to do if you want to become a Skratch player. And hey, it starts right here on the tee box. And you have to have the ability to take some kind of golf club. I don't care what club that is. It can be a driver, it can be a 3-wood, it can be a hybrid. I don't necessarily think it has to be all about distance here, because at a golf course we have multiple sets of tees and people need to play the appropriate set of tees for how far they hit the ball. But you have to have a golf club that you can put in play the vast majority of the time. You can't be a Skratch player hacking it out of the rough, chipping out of the woods, or driving it into fairway bunkers, or let alone penalty areas. So number one thing you have to do, you have to be able to drive the ball in play. Let's go find out some more keys to being able to be a Skratch player. Now, if you're a golfer that's really wanting to improve your game, okay, you're wanting to shoot lower scores, you may really want to consider subscribing to this channel, because this is what I do on this channel. I just give really great sound, fundamental golf advice, great course management advice, all things designed to help you shoot lower scores. So what's my next thing that you have to do if you want to be a Skratch player? You have to have really good command and control of the distance of your irons. And I'm not going on, hey, you have to hit an iron a certain distance, but you have to be consistent in hitting your irons the same distance all the time. You can't pull out an 8-iron and have it go one time, go 140 yards, and the next time it goes 158 yards. That's too big of a range. You've got to have your irons dialed in to where you're hitting an 8-iron. You know, if you miss it a little bit, you might come up a couple of yards short. You know that if you catch it super flush, you may go a yard or two long. But with that, you can then make plans on how you're approaching greens. So number two, you have to have great control over the distance that you hit your irons, and you've got to be consistent. Now, the third thing that I think you really have to be able to do when you are playing golf and you want to be a Skratch player is you have to have great course management. You have to know when you can fire at a pin and when you can't. You have to know safe places to aim off the tee, and it's just not bomb that driver every single time. You might need to start taking wide parts of the fairway to make sure you're in the fairway. You might need to start taking middle of the green to make sure you're hitting the green. You have to understand where you can and can't miss the green. I am right here 170 yards from the middle of the green. We've got a yellow pin up there, which means it's in the back. But I know that I can't go at that pin, because if I went long on this hole, this is the 18th hole here at Azalea City, it goes way down a hill towards number 10 tee box, and I get back there, I'm not getting the ball up and down. So with that back pin, I'm not that interested in the pin. I'm just interested in middle of the green. You have to understand, if there's a pin to the left of a green, you better be aiming at the center. If you've got pins over to the right, you better be aiming left of that pin. You got a pin that's tucked up front just behind a bunker, you better be taking a club that carries that pin and gets back behind it, so you're not messing with that bunker. So number three, learn when and where you can be aggressive, and understand when you need to take some very conservative targets. All right, I've got a 5-iron here. This is where my ball ended up after that tee shot. just trying to get something up on that green. That's a little low one. But y'all are gonna see right here what I'm talking about and what just happened up here. I hit that ball low. I had plenty of club because this is an uphill shot. I wasn't interested in carrying that ball back to that flag. So because I hit that low, it actually hit the ground and ran out. Wait till you see where my ball is. Well, look here. I hit a thin 5-iron. You saw it. It didn't get up in the air very high. Frankly, it was my third swing of the day right there. I hit one tee shot before the other one just to get warmed up. So I've hit 3 golf balls now today. And I was smart enough back there to know that I needed to take a little more club because I probably wasn't going to hit it super solid. And middle of this green to in front of this green was fine by me, even with this back pin. But because I hit the right club, the right shot, the right weight, my ball didn't land on the green, but I got away with my miss, and here I am, 10 feet, okay? I've got a birdie putt. So this takes me into another area where if you want to be a scratch player, you've got to be really, really good. You've got to be really good from that 10, 12 foot range in. And what does that mean? Does it mean you're going to make half your 10 footers? No. But you better be making close to half of them. When you're in that 10-foot range, you better be giving yourself a really, really good chance of making every single putt. When you're inside that 5-foot range, you need to be making them all. So you have to be a very proficient putter if you are going to be a scratch player. Now, I haven't hit any putts yet today, but let's see what I can do. So I'm going to read this green's just a tiny bit downhill. I think it's going to break a tiny bit to the right. And let's see if I can capitalize on my good fortune and my good thinking and make a birdie. Oh, God, it lipped out. Can you believe it? Well, but there's a par. So there's a hole that I hit a mediocre tee shot. It ended up in the middle of the fairway. I thinned a 5-iron, but because I was smart, I'm up here on the green, gave myself a chance at a birdie. I made a par. I'm going to the next hole. I'm going to have a real good chance of shooting scratch. Let's go talk about a couple of other things that you have to be able to do if you want to be a scratch player. Now, here's another incredibly important area if you want to be a scratch player. You have to have the ability to get up and down when you miss the green. And I'm not talking once or twice around. I'm talking well over 50% of the time you need to be able to get up and down. I think if you're going to be a scratch player, it needs to be in that 60% range, maybe 65% range that you get up and down. Now you sit there and you go, well, you know, man, how can you do that? Well, if you play smart from back there in the fairway, like I was doing, your misses around the green aren't going to be that bad. So you're giving yourself reasonable chances to get up and down. Now, what's involved with learning to get up and down? You got to be able to hit the pitch shot solid, okay? You got to be able to control the distance of your golf ball. You got to be able to choose the right golf club. You got to be able to choose the correct shot for the situation. I see people all the time, they just have their club. This is what I'm going to chip with. It's my sand wedge, it's my pitching wedge, whatever it is. You're not going to be a scratch player if that's what you do. You've got to be able to learn to use all the clubs in your bag. You've got to learn multiple shots around the green, and you've got to be able to control that golf ball, control its pace, and be able to pitch that ball back there like that and get it up there close to the hole so you can get up and down. Let's go talk about another area that we need to be really strong in if you're going to be a scratch player. All right, my next bit of advice on what I think you need to be really good at if you want to be a scratch player is you got to be good at making decisions when you've hit a bad shot. Now, I know I said earlier that you have to be able to put that ball in play off the tee. You do, but we're all going to hit a bad shot every now and then. And when you hit that bad shot cannot make you make a double. So I've got a situation here where I've missed the fairway. I'm over in the woods. I've got pine trees between me and the green. Now, I have an opening. I can see the flag. I could run this ball through this gap right here. You can see this first pine tree right here on the left. The next one up, that's a gap that I can hit a golf ball through. But is it a smart play? The answer is absolutely no, because there's so much danger in this shot. You can see there's a branch hanging off that tree. So those trees, that gap is probably 30, 40 yards in front of me. I got to keep something about head high for that long in order for it to get underneath of that branch. Also, that gap is very small. So if I was trying to hit it through that gap, I'd be putting a lot of pressure on myself, and hey, I might not hit the best shot. So I have to know when to take my medicine, and I have to know when to play safe. But at the same time, I have to have the skills that still allow me to get a par. Because back there, when I was talking about being able to get up and down 60% of the time, if I can do that, I'm standing right here saying, hey, if I can get something up there within 20 yards of that green, I've got a 60% chance I'm going to make a par. So I have to give myself a chance to make a par. Now, I'm going to add one more thing in here. When I was talking about controlling the distance of your irons, you also need to be able to control the curvature of your irons a little bit. You got to be able to make that ball move both directions. And I'm not talking about you're going to do that on every single green. I want you hitting your stock shot into greens. But you get yourself into a little bit of trouble here. I really want to be able to curve this ball to the right. So I've got a 5-iron in my hand. I am probably 160 yards to the middle of the green. The pin is on the front. It's a red flag. So again, to me, that tells me, hey, Michael, you hit that ball, you leave it a little bit short. You got a really easy up and down. So I'm going to take this 5-iron and I'm going to curve this ball around these trees and get something up there in front of the green. Sorry, folks, I was getting ready to hit that shot and realized I didn't have my glove on. It is hot out here. I'm sweating like crazy. That club might have flown out of my hands. So here we go. I'm going to take this 5-iron and I'm just going to try and hit me a little curve up there somewhere in front of the green. Okay, not the best golf shot I've ever hit, but wait till you see where I am. I'm about 30 yards short of the green. I've got a chance to make a par. Now, I would have much rather been up there a little bit farther, but I didn't hit that ball super solid from back there. But here's the deal. But because I took the smart route, I am not in any trouble. I'm not going to make a double bogey. The worst thing I'm going to make from right here is a bogey. But because I've got good skills with my wedges, if I was going to be a scratch player, I still have a great chance of making a par. So let me see if I can take this sand wedge and hit something up there and give myself a chance to make a par. And there you go. I hit it about 4 feet. Chances are I'm going to make a par. Well, there you have it. I hit that ball. I am not even 2 feet. And I just saved myself a par. Hitting a bad tee shot. Made a very smart decision out of the trees. Didn't hit it super solid. But I relied on that short game. Relied on my wedge. And I made par. Now, one more thing before we go wrap this video up. If you're trying to become a scratch golfer, I really want you to act like a golfer, and I want you to help take care of your golf course like a golfer should. That means we fix ball marks. Here's my ball mark from that last shot. We need to fix ball marks. We need to rake bunkers. We need to fill divots if you're in the south. You need to replace divots if you're in the north. You need to learn to keep your carts away from the greens and away from the tees so that you're not creating extra wear and tear on that golf course. So let's go wrap this video up and let's give a good summary on the things that you have to do in order to be a Skratch player. Well, I made a little executive decision here to wrap this video up in the shade because, like I said earlier, it is hot out here. So let's go over these one more time on the things that you have to do in order to be a Skratch player. Got to be able to drive that ball in play, and I mean on a regular basis. You can't have big foul balls, okay? Can't have balls out of bounds. Can't have balls in penalty areas. Can't lose golf balls. You got to drive the ball in play. I made an executive decision to come in the shade, and all the gnats are in here too. Second thing, you've got to be able to control the distance of your irons and have very good command of that control. You have to have a smaller shot dispersion than what you're probably used to. You have to be able to know when you can go for things and when you can't. When can you fire at a flag? When can you try and bomb a driver? Do you need to play to a more conservative target? Do you need to play to the center of the green? You've got to be smart out there on that golf course, knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. And that's another one that I'm going to touch on here at the very end, your strengths and your weaknesses. But you have to know when you can go for it and when you can't. You have to be able to chip and putt. You have to be able to get up and down well over 50% of the time. And you have to be able to putt from 10, 12 feet in. You need to be making some 10, 12 footers in your round of golf because that's what you're going to need to do to make some birdies, unless you've got great length and you're dominating the par fives. So there are my keys. And let's go back to this last one that I just mentioned, your strengths and your weaknesses. Understand what they are and always play to your strengths. Don't play to your weaknesses. If you are a strong wedge player, keep giving yourself wedges. If you get into trouble, give yourself a wedge. Understand your game and play to your strengths and get really good at these key tips. So folks, I hope that helped you. And hey, if you're trying to break 90 as well, you're somebody that just slid onto this video to see what it's all about and you're trying to break 90, it's the same stuff for you. You're just not going to be as good as the person who's trying to be a Skratch player. But you got to do all those same things. Well, listen, if this helped you out, hit that subscribe button, come back in and check out my videos. I'm going to go up here and teach a few golf lessons and finish out the day. And I will see y'all in the next video.